Time. Deputy Mike.
Hi, welcome back to Doing Time with Deputy Mike. I'm your host, Mike. Today I have a special guest, John Zabrucky, who right now is, I hope I don't, has a display on at Medici. All right, Museum of Art. John does all kinds of sci-fi and all that. So without further ado, let's meet our guest. Grab your feet and take a seat. It's roll call time.
Yes, my name is John Zabrucky.
Hi, John.
I'm Braden McElhenney.
And I'm Noah Hawes. Me and Braden, we went to Medici, the art museum last night to film his speech, which was not what we expected, but it was really insightful, and like it was cool to learn about that kind of stuff. You want to mention what you might have talked about yesterday briefly?
Well, before we do that, let's move into interrogation.
Oh, true.
Interrogation time.
Welcome to the show, John.
All right.
So go ahead, tell us all about your display and who you are.
So specifically, you'd like me to tell you about not the speech, not what you saw last night, just like my company.
What do you guys want to talk about? The speech?
So we were asking if you could recap on what you talked about
last
yesterday.
night.
That's what you want me to
Yeah,
say.
and then we can go into the other questions we have about sci-fi stuff.
So last night, yesterday was May 4th, which was it was the anniversary. I'm not sure which anniversary, but it was the anniversary of the massacre at Kent State, where 4 students died and a number of other students were maimed, paralyzed. It wasn't, it was a horrible day. I was joined by my oldest friend, and his name is Gerald Vincent Casali, or Jerry Casali. Jerry, I met in 1966 at Kent State. I'd actually gone to the University of Youngstown for 1 year, and then went to Kent, and I was there for quite a long time, and I ended up teaching there, and teaching at University of Akron, and I also taught at Mansfield Prison. And so yesterday, what Jerry and I talked about were kind of our personal and very specific kind of events that happened within the event. So that there were things that happened to me that I had never made public before, and Gerald, similar kind of thing. Not only did we talk about, it was kind of a mashup. So we talked about May 4th was primarily, and then we also talked about the sort of imagine the genesis of his rock and roll group, Devo, and the genesis of my company, Modern Props. And then within that, we did a lot of talking about how we both actually helped each other become successful within the group Devo and within the Hollywood company Modern Props. And I think that, that would basically sum up what the evening was about.
Nice. Well, it's really a pleasure having you on the show.
My pleasure.
And basically, that pretty much summed up like who you are. And well, tell us exactly. Well, you pretty much did tell us what you're known for. Your props. And you and I were talking off film, and you did a bunch of my favorites, which happened to be Star Trek, Incredible Hulk, and you've done a lot more. But if you want to go ahead and tell us about some of that.
Well, we did quite a few Star Trek, movies and or the TV series. As you said, some of the earlier stuff we did was Incredible Hulk. We go further back than that. We did Quark, which you've probably never heard of. Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, I think it was called. Fantastic Journey back in those days. And then once we got to about 1980 or so, we started, it was Blade Runner, Star Trek movies, we did Incredible Hulk for quite a long time. We did a couple of, I think the one with Michael Keaton and another one, Batman. Let's see, Men in Black. Jesus. Independence Day. Sorry, it's just
a lot.
It was so many, and in fact, it's very interesting because this school that I'm speaking to you at, one of the things you learn here is to make things, right? And so we've made.
Interruption, please. All BPA students going to nationals, please report to room B103, application and web, at this time.
It is a school.
Let me say this, like, for example, to put it in perspective a little bit, if you know anything about the movie business in terms of the artistry that goes into it, like, it could be anything from fashion design or even makeup, the world of props, a motion picture prop, let's say, we're here in the studio and I'm speaking in a microphone, and if this was the set of a movie, these microphones would have either been purchased, or if the director had, let's say, this design was not available, it would be made. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that props are generally made in a very poor way. I mean, in other words, they're so crappy that you're lucky if they survive the actual length of one film that they were made for.
I've seen some bloopers where they like pull out like a laser gun or something, and the whole thing just falls apart.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, I don't know exactly how to explain this to you, but I started making props. It was kind of an accident because I was teaching at Kent State University for I think about 4 or 5 years, and I was teaching also. I think maybe I mentioned it at University of Akron, and this prison, Mansfield, and I made the decision to come out to California. And so the way I started, for example, I was visiting a friend at Warner Brothers, and there was a sci-fi TV series going on, and I'm sorry, but I don't remember which one it was, but I remember the actor. You wouldn't probably know this guy because it's way before your time, but there was a show called Wagon Train, and there was this one burly kind of guy, and he had this huge beard, and he was the actor, and he was peering in this supposedly a futuristic microscope.
Yep.
And what this thing was the art department had put together basically a plexiglass dome and a plexiglass tube glued to the dome, and under the dome, I can only guess, but I figure it had to have been about 250 or 300 watt incandescent bulb. I know, right? Who wouldn't know what was going to happen next? So this guy's got lines to say, and
Right.
he's in the middle of of the shot. I'm off camera because I'm waiting for my friend, and we're going to go to lunch. And then I think what? That thing is smoking, right? It started smoking, right? And then it was just like a cartoon. It just went like, ooh, right? It just went, it just literally, it didn't really turn into a puddle, but it was like a bunch of folds, like when your bed's messed up. And the director just went absolutely out of his mind, screaming and yelling. So simultaneous to that, at the same moment when I saw this, be mindful of the fact that when I was at Warren Harding, I was the art guy and I was the science guy.
Yeah.
So I kind of laughed a little bit or something, or giggled or something. Some little laugh came out of me. And there was this woman standing nearby who I had no idea. I didn't even notice her, quite honestly. I did notice her soon enough, but she kind of snapped at me, and she goes, she had this kind of way of talking, like it was like like Joan Crawford in an old
Okay. Yeah.
TV, an old film noir
Yeah.
kind of movie or something, right? And it was like, what are you laughing about, right? And I said, she kind of caught me by surprise because usually people don't talk to you like that if they don't, especially if they don't know you, right?
Yeah,
And,
right.
And I said, because I was trying to defuse her, what I perceived as some kind of anger on some level, and I just said, I didn't really mean to laugh. I just thought that was a silly mistake. And then she said to me, in this kind of sing-song, Joan Crawford kind of thing, just, oh, just go, oh, I suppose you could do better.
I could hear that voice as you're doing it.
Right?
Yes.
You got the voice.
I got the voice.
Because I can't really do it.
No, I got it, yeah.
And, I'm a pretty sarcastic guy. And I was kind of offended by the way she was talking to
Right.
me. And also, at that point in my trip to California for 2 years, I went from teaching at 3 institutions to pretty much unemployment. So I was kind of messed up. I was not the happiest camper. And she says that to me, and I just went for it, and I kind of leaned into her. I got really close to her. Like, my lips were like here, and I whispered. I don't know what got into me, okay? I don't normally act like that, okay? But
she just hit the right buttons at the right time.
She said that to me, and I said, I go, listen, while I'm sleeping, I can do better than that. And then I go, okay, like question mark. And then she really lost it, and she flips her head another thing I can't do. She just was like, whoa, she takes off, and the woman is walking on like 5-inch or 6-inch stilettos, right?
Yeah.
On a studio floor, which are these huge planks with cracks in between. You get that stiletto in the middle of one of those cracks,
It'll snap
and
your
break
ankle.
your leg. And she splits, and I'm just standing there waiting for my friend to go have lunch still, and the studio goes dark, and I'm looking at my feet, just feeling like, Zabrucky, you live in hell, man. And just before she splits, this grip comes up to me. No, actually, right when she splits, this grip comes up to me, who kind of knew my situation, and he goes, hey, trying to get your friend fired? And I went, who was that? And he goes, oh, that was the producer, right? So now I'm really depressed. And I'm standing there, I'm still staring at my shoes. And now the stage is completely empty. So it's echoing a bit. And I heard her walk away.
Right.
I knew what that sounded like. And now I heard that sound again, except it was coming towards me. And I can't even begin to explain to you what a bizarre moment that was for me, because that was the last person I wanted to see. And I'm standing there pretending like I don't hear someone's walking towards me,
you.
right?
As it's echoing.
Exactly. And I'm standing there, and she comes right up to me, facing like I'm facing this way, right? And she's facing this way, except her arm, this whole length, is touching my arm, right? And then her head cocks over to my ear, and she very quietly said, listen, do you really know how to make these machines? Do you really know how to make these devices? And I said, I was very kind of curt with her, because I was bummed out.
Right.
Mostly I was bummed out at myself,
Right.
my situation. And I said, yeah, I know how to I know how to make those things. And she said, look, can you come to my office for a couple of minutes? I want to talk to you about something. And I go, no, I'm busy.
My goodness.
I go, I'm busy. Yeah, I'm busy collecting food stamps, right? So these words come out of my mouth, and I realize there's no way I'm getting those words back in my mouth. So I start praying, you know. I'm a Catholic boy. I'm going, please, make her ask me one more time. I won't do it again. And, you know, I don't know, 15, 20, 30 seconds went by. It was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then she goes, come on, 5 minutes, right? And I went, oh,
Thank you.
thank you, right? And so I followed her to her office. And it got almost equally bizarre then. It was like she's got her desk there, and she's got her coffee mug and crap on her desk, and she grabs her coffee mug. She hands it to me, right? And she says, see this coffee mug? I go, yeah. She says, well, if I had you make this coffee mug for me, there would be a picket line around Warner Brothers tomorrow morning. The unions in those days were extremely diligent and strong.
Yeah.
And I'm not anti-union or anything. You know, I'm just a broke guy in
Right.
Los Angeles.
And that's what you were up against.
So then she says to me, let's say you own that mug. I go, okay, I own the mug. Right? She goes, I could rent it from you. And nobody could do anything, and nobody could say anything, and everything would be hunky-dory. Right? So she said, you understand? And maybe I'm not the brightest bulb on the block,
Right.
but I said, no, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And she said, look, I get the scripts. You know, she didn't say I'm the producer, but
Right.
you know, she said, I get the scripts before anybody gets a script. And then when we go into the art department meeting, we dissect the script, and we discover that, for example, we need a communicator, or we need a briefcase-sized computer, or any number of things, you know, or some kind of ray gun or something. You know what I'm saying? And she said, so my idea is that I'm going to ring you up. You're going to come down here. I'm going to explain what we need. I'm going to give you a bunch of money. You're going to build this thing. And then a couple weeks later, I'm going to go into a art department meeting, and then somebody is going to say, hey, we need this miniature computer.
Right.
But I'm going to say, no, we don't need that. I know a guy that's got one. We're going to rent it from him. Okay? That's it. That's how it started.
That's how it started.
And then, luckily for me, they pretty much liked, I mean, I don't remember them not liking anything I did. And they just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think everybody figured out that I wasn't a union guy. And I had gone down to the Santa Monica Mall. I went into like one of, an early t-shirt, a hippie t-shirt shop. And I found this picture of these two aliens in a rocket ship, like they're at the control panel. And I had the guy put down, I named my company Airflow because I was enamored with the Chrysler Airflow from, the Art Deco days. So I had Airflow Sci-Fi Rentals. So I was Mr. Airflow. So I would wear this. So I would wear this $10 T-shirt
Your,
to Warner
your
Brothers.
company logo.
That was me. I had one T-shirt. When it got dirty, I'd wash it. And I tell you, by the time, I was there for months, but these things started getting insane. For this obscure TV show called Fantastic Journey, I built a computer that had a half-inch thick, optically welded, I mean, it's basically almost like a continuous piece of plastic. Would hold 10,000 gallons of water, bubbles and lights. I had that on a U-Haul trailer. I had it on a U-Haul trailer, and I mean, that's how it went. And then, okay, so simultaneous to that, there was a guy from Kent that I knew that I think he just basically, he'd hang around. I think he kind of was in love with my ex or something. He's always hanging around.
He's always hanging around.
I was working on I was doing all that work in a one-car garage.
Wow.
And I had very unsophisticated equipment. I basically, you could say I almost had no equipment, but I was subcontracting out. I had my trusty soldering iron. I had my drill. I didn't have any sophisticated machinery. And so this guy, he kept hanging around, and he said, look, I've got this, he had an egg company, a little egg company where they'd wholesale eggs to restaurants. And he said, look, my partner's this actor. He was on this TV show, and he walked away with $10,000, which, that's not a crap load of money, but,
Right.
But back then it was, back in the 70s.
Yeah, that was some good money.
Wasn't horrible, right?
Yeah.
And he said, he really wants to start a business, so, why don't we start an official company? And I said, I am an official company.
Right.
I've been on food stamps, and now I'm making money.
Right. Yeah.
So I kept saying, I said no. And then like next month he'd come back and hit me again, and I'd say no, right? So a few months went by, and then there was this pivotal day where, like in the cartoon where there's the angel is over here and the devil is
on the
over
other
here,
shoulder.
right? And, I saw no reason to go into partnership with those guys, right? But this guy says to me, he goes, well, I know you really want to work on your art. You don't really want to make props at the moment. I know you're dying to work on your art. So if we start an actual company, I'll be doing all the stuff you don't want to do, and you can concentrate on design work and your artwork. The guy got me, he got me. And I said, okay. So then, I'm still on food stamps. I go to Inglewood, California, which was at that time pretty rough. I find a warehouse, 4,000 square feet, 13 cents a square foot. If you can possibly imagine that price. I mean, that's how bad it was. It was bad.
Oh my goodness.
It just looked like the kind of place where you'd go inside, but you'd never
Never come back
out.
out of it.
You'd never come back out. And we built an office, we built a shower so we could, when we were wiring all night, because, we raised $18,000, that $10,000 from that actor. I think I put in $4,000 or $5,000. I don't know. It was about $18,000, right? And that $18,000 lasted a whole year. We didn't pay ourselves a dime, and I made 11 major props. And pretty much pretty much that was how we started. And then one day we opened our doors. We opened our doors with 11 props.
Do you remember what those props were?
Oh yeah, I know what the props were. Yeah, I mean not every one of them. Like
Yeah.
one of them was the I think you had it on the. One of them was the giant radar screen from that was very popular in the Incredible Hulk. There were these units we called them the boomerang units. From the side view, they looked like this, kind of like that.
Yeah.
And then two of them had like, I don't know, something like 500 to 1,000 lights on the panel, and they basically just made these, just constantly cycling through patterns, right? It was that kind of thing, and that was the beginning of the company.
That's cool. What's your favorite prop? What was the most favorite one that you made?
Well, I was just I just was talking about this not very long ago. I think I have three favorite props. I think are my most favorite props. Like, one is the dual axis generator, which is now, because of this guy from Belgium who made this video and put it on YouTube, and he titled the video "The Most Important Device in the Universe." And I immediately fell in love with that. When I saw that, he named it that, I instantly, I said, oh, I have to have a book now. I have to try to write a book, and it's going to be called "The Most Important Device in the Universe," because I couldn't believe the title, right?
Right.
And in fact, I hadn't thought about the Guinness Book of World Records in years, because I always considered it kind of kitsch, a bit kitsch, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's a guy with 20 hot dogs in his mouth and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But there's also more legitimate stuff in there, but I never gave it a thought. Last year I got a call from Ireland or somewhere like that, and they said that the most important device in the universe was being inducted into their museum or book or whatever it is. Yeah. So, how can you not love something like that? It's been in over 200 productions. One prop, the same prop, 200 productions.
That's pretty cool.
And if you watch this guy's YouTube thing, now he's got part 1 and part 2 or something like that, but he calls himself. I would love to run into this guy because he's obviously really into sci-fi to have noticed, because he was the first one that noticed, hey, I've seen that thing before, right? And then he starts saying, oh, there it is again, right? And then at some point, he starts taking clips of it, right? And he puts all these clips together and makes about an 8-minute clip, right? And I would just love to run into the guy. He calls himself Major Grin, something like that. And somebody told me that they were able to figure out that he was from Belgium. Now, I don't know if that's true.
Right.
But that's what I heard.
Well, not to interrupt you, but like the Enterprise, the props, like the land, what is it? Where they beam you up.
Right.
Did you make those?
No, that's optical.
That's optical.
Yeah, and then I mean we have chambers that have, I think been probably used on the series. These, like a plexiglass chamber, and then you throw a switch, and the plexiglass actually slides next to each other, and it opens like this.
Yes.
And then you walk inside, and then you could do that trick, right?
Right.
And they're beautifully made. But no, we didn't do that goes way back. That whole optical, or however they did it. I assumed it was some sort of optical.
Well, I remember when you said how it was used over and over, and I learned that the big pad from the original Enterprise was also used in like the next generation, but what they did was they kind of flopped it around. So
Right.
the floor was actually the ceiling, and the ceiling, and they pretty much same prop, just
Yeah, there's a lot of that kind
Yeah,
of thing that
yeah.
goes on, or used, especially back in the days when we handmade everything, you know.
right.
I mean, like when if you go to the Medici and you see the collection. By the way, I haven't mentioned that the Medici is it's got this display on, but there's going to be an actual museum that's dedicated to the whole collection. And so the Medici is simply doing a preview for this museum. The museum is called the Museum of Science Fiction and Fantasy Arts, and that is the actual name of the museum. And the Historical Society has actually also purchased a vintage building, 4 stories, it's near the square, near Lake Erie, is on the property. Sorry, Lake Erie,
Right.
Mahoning River, and they've they've identified a architectural firm that they've chosen, and they're going to completely redo the building.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is this the radar you was talking about?
Which one?
Uh,
No. That's very typical kind of.
Just a regular.
Yeah, it's pretty regular.
Let's see what we got.
But you wanted. Did you want me to finish with the three favorites, or do you?
Yeah, no. Because we're running out of time. So
Yeah. Okay. So what would you like to know now?
All right. What are your 3 favorites?
Oh, you want me to do?
Yeah. I really want.
Okay, so the second one actually wasn't built as a prop. Okay, in West Hollywood, there's this gigantic structure, beautiful structure. It's called the Pacific Design Center. And Pacific Design Center has got offices with architects in there. There's shops that carry Italian furniture. It's for, interior people, architecture,
Yeah.
design. And every year, I don't know if they do it anymore because I haven't been keeping track ever since COVID. But every year they would choose like 4 or 5 architects, working architects, and they would have a project that would be designed and built by the individual architectural firms, and then there would be a special night. You'd buy tickets, and there would be a raffle, and then whoever was the high bidder would walk away with whatever this thing was. So on this particular year, they again chose one less than normal. Okay, architects, and for some reason they also called me up and wanted me to be part of it. So what the project was to make a doghouse. Now, I hope you have the doghouse because you're probably getting the idea
Yeah, I'm trying to
something that you might see at Home Depot, but
Right.
no, this ended up being like a very a kind of well, for sure futuristic, because the whole doghouse was operated by, you had to have a pretty smart dog, but the doghouse had a retractable door ramp The whole interior of the doghouse was gray glove leather. It had forced air ventilation controlled by the dog. It had dog vision TV, completely controlled by the dog. On,
That's
off,
cool.
channel up, channel down, volume up, volume down. And this is around 1990, right? And I kind of went crazy on it because I loved the way it was coming out.
Right.
We figured out we had about 12K in this thing.
Wow.
And I said to, my partners, I said, no one's going to pay anywhere close to this for this thing, right? We're going to get like $800 for it or something, or $1,000. So that night of the auction for charity, I go there myself, even though I built it. And when bidding started, I bid on it. And I just made sure I was the high bidder, and I bought
You bought your
the
product.
doghouse back. Right?
How much did you buy it for, if you don't mind me asking?
I think I was right on the money. I think it was about $1,000 to $1,500 or something like that, right? And then we put it in inventory because it's just a beautiful thing. So that's the other favorite, and then the third one, which also has a kind of backstory, was the communicator that I designed for Star Trek, I think number 3, Wrath of Khan. So for Wrath of Khan, what happened?
That was that flat one, right? Was it the flatter?
It's very typical,
Almost like the.
Yeah, it goes like it's
Yes.
very flat. It was in its own case.
Yes.
Been down there?
I don't have it on here. I was looking for it. I
Uh,
do believe I recognize this though, and I want to say that.
That's a laser cannon. That's a field that's like a field cannon.
Yeah.
It's quite big. It's about this long.
I think wasn't that in Star
That's
Trek
been
when they
in
blew up
so many things.
when they blew up a mountain, and then before Kirk,
Mm-hmm.
and then I think that was I seen it in Lost in Space. Is that possible?
You mean like the second one, the other one that was the newer one that was made.
I was thinking the older one, but
The older one, I don't think. Maybe I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know.
oh, no.
But okay, so I get. There's what's called property master.
yes,
Property master is basically a set decorator, but they only deal with props that are held. So in other words, when you're decorating your film, right,
yeah,
the set decorator would choose this. The set decorator would choose this, right?
right,
You had like a console, or that would be the set decorator. The property master would deal with this. The property master would deal with this. Anything touched, right? Okay, so this property master comes in and they're working on Wrath of Khan. And I forgot the director's name. Anyway, youngish director. So the property master says to me, "Can you show me anything like it's kind of like a communicator that's got knobs all over it? Like
Yeah.
switches." And I went, and I'm trying to talk the guy out of it. I'm going, look, because some of these people are really smart, and some of these people are not so smart. So I just wanted to make sure, right? I go, look, this is Star Trek. This is way in the future.
Oh, hey, I gotta cut you off.
Yeah.
It's I gotta get outside and direct traffic.
Okay.
But I want to thank you very much
Yeah.
for joining us. I wish we had a lot more time because there's so much I want to talk to you about. But,
Yeah, maybe next time.
I grew up with most of your stuff, I want to say,
Yeah.
which is really cool. Thank you for taking your time out and coming here and spending it with us.
It was my pleasure.
And we got to go, guys. I'm late. So thank you, and until next time, we'll see you again.
Okay.
22, I'll be on service.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but I got to get outside.
Gotcha.
I'll try to get out of here.
All right.